Welcome to Drinking Bros, presented by GhostBed.com.
What is up, everyone? You know what it is. You know who I am. And don't you love where I'm sitting right now? Drink it in, drink it in. I am mostly just killing time for this first 90 seconds so I can look down at my computer and hope the stream is running correctly and maybe get away with a monetized video so I don't say the C word. I hope y'all are doing okay. I hope y'all tuned in and watched UFC Fight Night 185 last night. It was pretty interesting. Derek Lewis, Curtis Blades action. Let's go ahead and pop over and make sure the video is doing all right. Ooh, there it is. Boom. What is up? Ooh, and there's an ad. I gotta watch an ad before I can check my own video. YouTube, pay me. No one in the chat yet, but got a little Long Branch on the desk. Got a little Kill Cliff Ignite. Got a few of these old Swisher Sweet minis that I'm a huge fan of, which I'm about to spark up here in a second as soon as I can skip this ad. And boom, there I am. Cool. All right. Well, first Swisher Sweet mini that we're going to light up, and then we're going to talk about this old UFC. Make sure this is public. Sometimes I forget to turn that on and off. And cool, it's on. All right. Boom. Yeah. UFC Fight Night 185. Curtis Blades, Derek Lewis. This was basically a night for the heavyweights. I really enjoyed this night. You gotta see a lot of old names. I think there were two guys on the card who both had over 50 professional MMA fights, which is just ridiculously unheard of. But to jump right into it, there's a few people watching now. What's up, everyone? Say hi in the chat. I'm gonna say hi to y'all real quick. Just me here in the studio today, talking about the old UFC. Andrei Arlovsky versus Tom Espanol. Man, this was interesting. This was fun. Me and Dan kind of went back and forth on this. Dirty Dan believes that a lot of these older fighters are quote-unquote tomato cans. Andrei Arlovsky is a former heavyweight champion of the UFC, but Tom looked great. That blast double, just head right in the inside, driving him into the cage. Arlovsky looked like he had never even been in the fight before. Like, Tom was just punching him up, like completely winning in the boxing, so much faster, clearly. And then, yeah, that blast double just drove him right to the cage. And then Andre just giving up his back so easily. Like, it looked like he had never been there before, never turned to his back, never tried any jiu-jitsu, just almost looked shook. He hit the cage pretty hard, but the sides are padded and, like, there's nothing hard enough there to really kind of knock you out. But, man, just what a way to go for your 51st professional fight. Rough indeed. This blunt that I'm smoking on, though, is not rough. It's actually quite smooth. We are not sponsored by Swisher Sweets, but I kind of wish I was. These are the minis. These are the mini grapes that I'm a real big fan of. As you could tell, or might have heard already, Ross and Jesse are back in North Carolina. So what that really means is we get to smoke weed in the studio all day long. And I hope you guys enjoy that. Yeah, but Tom looks great. It's really interesting to see a lot of these overseas fighters coming over to the UFC and what they can do. He's a pretty exciting heavyweight prospect. Moved real good, had real good boxing, a really nice wrestling for a non-wrestler. Yeah, exciting guy. Next fight of the night was the Phil Hawes versus Uramov. Sorry about that. So this was super interesting at welterweight. Phil Hawes actually wrestled at Iowa State the same time I wrestled at Mizzou. He was a former Iowa Central national champion, very similar to John Jones and a few other guys. And then he won JUCOs and then transferred out into Big 12 school, Iowa State. Wrestled there in 2011. He looked amazing the first 2 rounds. One, he is a freak of nature athletically. Like, this man's shoulders are complete boulder balls, and he throws haymakers and power. Really dominated the first round. Kind of the first 3 minutes of the second round definitely dominated as well. And then he just let Uramov back into this fight. And honestly, in the third round, he was knocked unconscious on his feet. I thought the ref was going to stop it. He covered up and just kept taking him. Got tired, didn't go back to the wrestling, didn't control on the ground, allowed Umarov to like scoot back against the cage and then work up off the cage and then get back to his feet. And he was losing the kickboxing fight that third round. There were head kicks and elbows coming from everywhere, and he just didn't know how to protect himself, which is pretty interesting. It's something I'm going to get to in a little bit about wrestlers in particular and how they don't go back to their wrestling enough. But a clear example here, ended up pulling out the decision. I believe this was a split decision or one of the judges, I think, scored it a draw. So it might have been technically a unanimous decision. But, Phil Hall's coming away with that W there. Definitely impressive. Both these guys will be around the middleweight division for a little bit. Our second heavyweight fight of the main card and our second fighter to be fighting over 50 professional MMA bouts. Oleksiy Olenek. What can you say about this guy? He was fighting when I was wrestling in middle school. This dude literally has 75 professional fights, and I thought he was going to carry that experience into this fight a little bit more with Chris Daukaus. Chris Daukaus is recently established himself as a heavyweight contender. Good boxing, good athleticism, terrible gas tank, and is definitely on the heavier side. He definitely is the pudgier of the heavyweights, less on the Francis Ngannou area of the spectrum, but has good hands and is tough. I thought Olenek would definitely tie him up in some overhooks, get him against the cage, some dirty boxing, he definitely went for the Kimura right off the bat. He went for that Kimura. I think Olenek has the most submission attempts in UFC history for heavyweight, but he went for that right away, and I thought there might be a shot that Daukaus could submit him, Olenek could submit Daukaus, but kind of just didn't happen. Daukaus put the hands on him, worked him against the cage. Olenek really didn't have an answer for it, and then eventual stoppage. Oh, wow, we got the chat going on a little bit. We got the Hawk in the building. Squawk. What's up, Hawk? We got Caleb. We got Nathan. Alexander says isn't ancient, so he's understandably held it down for a while. Yeah, Olenek did definitely hold it down for a while. I didn't think Chris Daukaus was the guy to take him out like that. He was still a number 10 ranked heavyweight in the world coming into this fight, or in the UFC coming into this fight. And I definitely thought he was going to put up more than just a single submission attempt from a flying Kimura from your feet. I definitely thought there was more than that. He was close to catching it too. If he could have just gotten it outside his back a little bit, I think he could have maybe done it. But he was pressed up against the cage. Daukaus is a big boy. Got his arm back out and then went back to the boxing. And just what I thought was a way too easy stoppage. Both these heavyweight fights in particular, with these veteran heavyweights, just went out really easy to some fundamentals. I know fundamentals win matches and when in doubt, go back to the basics, but I saw no experience here. I saw no experience from two former champions where I really thought I would have, and maybe that's just me being naive and not giving these young fighters enough credit. Let me know in the chat what you think about these two veteran heavyweights going out to two young guys pretty easily. Ruben Schneider asked, why didn't I go into UFC after college? I didn't end my college wrestling career at the heights that I'd wanted to. I didn't have the most success at the end of my career. My junior year is where I saw the most success in college, and I thought about it. I helped some of my former teammates train a little bit for their fights. It was definitely the Wild West back then. There wasn't even really social media yet, and social media hadn't came along, and there wasn't these avenues to grow yourself that I see now. It was a lot of, you're going to go fight in this Hooters parking lot. You're going to go fight in Hickville, Alabama. And it was just take guys down and hammer fist punch them. And when I left athletics, I wanted to get away from athletics. And so I spent, the next 10 years of my life doing other things. Kind of miss it now, which is why it's fun when I get to go into mat rooms or go into jiu-jitsu facilities and play around a little bit. Definitely miss it. But I just kind of ended that part of my life at that time. But it's fun looking back on it now and like seeing all these old names and like dudes I wrestled with in elementary school over in like professional fight league. Bubba Jenkins is that guy. He was like, dude, I remember you from like we were 11 years old and now you're punching guys in the face. Like I said, Michael Chandler's a former teammate of mine, Tyron Woodley. Yeah. Yes, the Hawk. There are grandmothers that need loving and they don't, it's hard to munch old grandma veg when you have punches and black eyes and holes all in your face. It just, the ratio of the acid and the pH, it messes up their vagina. It's just, it's not good for the ladies. So less blood, the better. Oh wait, I think I just discovered why menopause is a thing. Maybe. I don't know. I'm really high, guys. So have I mentioned these Swisher Sweets mini blunts yet? They are not a sponsor, but Swisher Sweets, if you're out there, sponsor me. Yeah, so the 2 heavyweight fights going out pretty quick. It's bringing us up to this featherweight fight, which was really interesting, and I knew nothing about these guys. And to be completely honest, I'm not the biggest fan of the featherweight division. Like 25, 35, and 45, I think could be condensed into 2 weight classes, and I think could draw more attention to those weight classes. But it's a whole podcast and episode in itself. Charles Rosa did absolutely nothing in this fight. He laid on his back for 15 minutes looking for an armbar and never transitioned from his first attack. Like, supposed to be the more dangerous man on the ground, supposed to be the jiu-jitsu specialist. Derek Minner, more of a traditional freestyle Western boxing fighter. Charles Rosa did nothing. Minor just dominated him on the ground as well. It was just a clinic. Rosa did look dangerous for the entire fight. It was really funny. We were sitting here and Dan threw $100 on him real quick. Like he was doing this live betting like right before people were about to walk out. And he lost a ton of money. And then we'll get to the last fight of the night in a little bit, but he was about to put some money down on that and win it all back and be fine, and then chickened out and didn't. But sucks to be Dirty Dan. But yeah, Charles Rosa, you need more. You need second attempts. When the armbar's not there, you look for the head and arm choke, try to transition to a Kimura. I saw him diving under all the time for heel hooks. But yeah, one submission attempts to another. You're not going to get that first attempt, especially with these guys who have pretty good overall game. And just something that he's got to learn. Now, this women's fight's really interesting because one of them is really hot. Not to discredit women's mixed martial arts, because it just came a long way in a very quick amount of time. But it's just always better when one of them's hot. That's Yana Kuntsakayev, who is actually Tito Dos Santos' wife, or fiance, actually. So there's some UFC power couple, which is pretty interesting. And her ground and pound game and an ability to stay with the fight was super interesting. So I thought Caitlin Vieira was going to walk through this. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu national champion, Brazilian women's wrestling national champion, which technically means nothing. Like, women's wrestling is not there as a sport yet. It's growing, but usually if you're any good, you completely dominate. I thought she was going to dominate this fight. First round, easy takedown, definitely won the first round. Look for submission attempts. No ground and pound whatsoever, which is kind of transitioned me to this point that I want to talk about in UFC in particular, where it is mostly Western boxing, like a very traditional Western boxing on the stand-up, and a very traditional jiu-jitsu on the ground. We don't see as much ground and pound. We don't see punches to elbows. We're not seeing that against the cage either, which is another big takeaway from the night that I had there. The dirty boxing was basically non-existent. A few fighters were coming in with those elbows at the end or forearms across the ear. No foot stomps whatsoever. No Muay Thai knees up against the cage, which is really where I thought some of these heavyweights could do some damage. There's a lot of weight pushing against the cage in that over-under and in that clinch, and you can do a lot with those knees. And damaging a heavyweight's legs takes away all his power and his punches. Not to tease Derek Lewis a little bit, but that man looked like baby or Bambi on ice, somehow still had his power, but you kick to the leg, you needle the leg, there's no blood that can rush to it anymore. It's all clotted up in there. It's all bruised. It's all swollen, and you can't push off it to throw that power. You also can't circle as well. You're compromising your opponent, and I don't see enough UFC fighters doing that. You don't see enough UFC fighters doing damage to people. In Gregor Gillespie's interview with Joe Rogan before his Khabib fight, he says, if I kick him in the leg 7 times, I can damage him and I can compromise him. Guys aren't fresh. Damage wears on you. It takes away from your ability to go win a fight. And when you're in some of these safe positions, these clinch positions, these full guards where guys relax, they don't stay on during the fight, and like you can capitalize there. And I saw no one tonight really take advantage of those positions. I saw a lot of guys lose those positions, especially that first fight of the night. Espanol with that blast double right into the cage, like Arlovsky did nothing. Like, you turn to your back, you can't give up your neck like that. But yeah, Caitlin Vieira did nothing on the ground. She looked for submission attempts. There was no ground and pound, no damage inflicted, which then allowed Kunsakai to come back in the second, even the fight up, and then the third getting taken down a few times. Both women are pretty tired 12 minutes into this fight. Kunsakai takes that last 3 minutes, reverses a few positions, does a little bit more damage. You look at the significant strike count, it's like 100 and something to 5. You're going to lose these fights. Caitlin Vieira probably controlled that fight more. And if that fight would have went on forever, probably to the death or something, probably would have won in a way of just holding her and submitting her out. But like, she didn't take advantage of her positions that she was in. She didn't take advantage of when she was on top, and I lost her a fight. And you do that too many times in the UFC, and you're fighting another organization. But now we're getting to the very, very best part of the evening. And before I do that, I'm going to crack this Killcliff Ignite. Shout out to John Brinkus at Sports Science, and thank you, Dan Holloway, for stocking the offage full of Killcliff. We don't get this for free. Dan buys it for me, so thank you, Dan. And I didn't mean to dox him in front of the whole audience, but Dan does nice things from time to time. What are you guys saying over here in the chat? Yeah, the Hawk says, I can't really bet MMA anymore. I always bet on who I like instead of who really should win, which is interesting. And what a lot of the MMA shows turn into, and it just kind of turns into a popularity contest, or who can hype one fighter up in one way or another. It's this MMA math, like so-and-so beat who, but they lost to who, but that was 5 years ago. That was at a different weight class. They're better now. We've seen this training footage, and it's all about this weird math equation of deciding who's going to win. But I mean, anything can happen on any given night. And these are two men walking into a steel cage together. Curtis Blades dominated that fight against Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis fell at least 4 or 5 times back. Like, I don't know if there's something wrong with his back leg. I don't know if there was a kick early on, but it seemed to bow in a way. He wasn't moving very, very good at all. And the punching exchanges definitely was getting more of, Derek Lewis was landing more of the heavier punches and winning more of the exchanges, but Curtis Blades was landing more punches out of them and definitely doing damage. Derek Lewis isn't known for his cardio. I thought Curtis Blades was really doing exactly what he needed to do to win this fight. I don't know if he got scared. I don't know if he got sloppy. I don't know what happened. He went for this high single with his head down and his chin's just open. Like, when he went for that shot, just completely head down, and this chin is just exposed here. And when you get that chin hit, like, it's just floating. Any punch will just render you completely unconscious, which it did. It wasn't even a clean strike. When he came in for that high single and Derek Lewis just came with that uppercut right on the button, he was very stiff. Then he took one more in the air, completely boarded out, hit the ground, and Derek Lewis hit him with 2 more before Herb Dean could jump in there and push him off. I didn't watch all of the post-fight. I couldn't see a Curtis Blades post-fight, or I hadn't watched one yet. I watched a Derek Lewis interview. Is Curtis Blades live? Because I haven't seen someone that stiff since Ben Askren, and yeah, that was bad. Derek Lewis keeps doing it. I don't know how he keeps doing it. It upsets me. I had a long conversation with Dan about it last night. I mean, no disrespect to Derek Lewis whatsoever. I just thought MMA, mixed martial arts, was past that. I thought we were in this weird hybrid stage where we no longer saw like the true specialist. Like you got Wonder Boy, you got Izzy, but they're both also decently well-rounded in some aspects. Francis Ngannou, is just the puncher, and Derek Lewis is another just massive puncher. And I need more high-quality wrestling heavyweights to come back into the UFC. I need more Daniel Cormiers, because like when we watched that fight against Derek Lewis and DC, it was an easy night out for him. He kind of toyed with him, and then when he saw that maybe he could get knocked out, he submitted him pretty easily. Where are these guys? Are they coaching wrestling? Are they still trying to win or get on the Olympic team? Are they fighting in other organizations? I don't really think so. I think Vitor Belfort is the number one ranked heavyweight outside of the UFC, and we saw what happened to him over the last 4 or 5 years. Where are these guys at? Where are they at? I would love to see a Derek Lewis John Jones fight. That would warm my heart. That would give us something to do after this Stipe Ngannou this match, which I definitely think Stipe is going to win. Ngannou is a 2.5 favorite on that, and we're going to do a huge pre-show before that next UFC. We got a Gane Rosenstrike fight night next, but then we got the big triple championship card that we're going to do a big pre-fight for. But yeah, Ngannou, after losing 5 rounds to Stipe, is now a 200 or minus 250 favorite in that fight, which I don't understand how that is plausible whatsoever. Early bets, put your money on Stipe while you can still get these odds. He's going to win that fight. I would like to see a John Jones, Derek Lewis. I think that would be interesting. I don't know if there's enough money there, but for the lulz, like for the Moon Gang, that would be the fight to put together. I think John tools him up. I think Derek never lands a punch on John, and yeah. And that's just an easy warm-up heavyweight fight for John to then go into the Stipe fight, which, back to what I was talking about, this pure sport of MMA. I think Stipe is one of the most underrated fighters ever, probably, especially to what he did against DC and the way he out-wrestled DC in some of those matches and outboxed him. It is this, like, it's all about your decision making, because like there's these set of parameters, and you learn techniques and you learn what you should do in positions based on these parameters. In wrestling, you can take some of these shots and you can do some of these things because you're not worried about getting punched in the jaw. You can lead with your head. Something that Curtis Blades reverted back to in a position that he didn't do well in. So like there's a way of learning to just combat MMA, and your internal decision making is just based on the MMA spectrum. And I think that's where some of these pure mixed martial artists are. And it's kind of weird seeing the heavyweight division not quite be that. I don't know what you guys think. I know a lot of the casual fans like to see the stand-up, the Western boxing, the knockouts, but combining all that together and watching two fighters who are extremely skilled, it's about answering the questions and solving the puzzles, and I find it pretty interesting. Let's see what some of you guys are saying in the chat. I'm explaining the Askren hype against Masvidal. I'm not even going to go into that. Ben Askren's going to knock out Jake Paul. Put your money on Ben right now. He's training well. I don't know if he's going to return to MMA. His hip's supposedly feeling good. We'll see. You never got to see that man in his prime fight the best fighters in the world, and that's a shame. The Hawk says, I'm surprised they really don't use more standing wrestling moves against opponents. Yeah, I'm pretty surprised about that either, especially in the clinch. I don't see any lift in returns, and a lot of guys aren't throwing legs in when they're on top and they have the back. You'll see them in like an over-under position. A guy's kind of butting up from the bottom, and they're trying to return him to his hands. No one's throwing legs in. I don't know if that's just they're so used to the jiu-jitsu training. And that's, which decision, and again, so I'm talking about the decision making in your brain, like how do you react to that position? Like, what do you do from here? Which really goes back to like, what's your game plan? Like from when you walk into that cage to when you walk out, what's exactly going to happen? And then you got to have a reaction scenario for everything that opponent does to you in every scenario that you could be in. So it's like when they're there, like, what do you want to do? And guys aren't reverting back to some of these techniques that can really lock down their opponents. Like, you get both your legs in on an opponent from their back, you can keep them on their belly for quite a bit of time. You can recover there. Like, if one thing, that's what Khabib was best at, is he could constrict opponents' legs together till they couldn't do anything. It was frustrating. And then he would work from that base onto something else, There's not a lot of this attempt at something. There's a counter, and then there's another attempt, and we break away, and then we're neutral again, and now we're back into this boxing match. We're in a position. I'm going to keep this position because I'm dominant here, and I know I can win from here until I move to another position, which is even better than the one I was in before, until I finally get to the place where I need to be, that I can submit this guy or hold their face to the canvas and bang it until he's no longer conscious. Again, shout out to Killcliff. Yeah. So what's going on in this heavyweight division? Derek Lewis moves up to obviously number 3 after this. John Jones won't be in the rankings until he has a fight. This Rosenstreich-Gane fight, next fight, is very, very interesting. It was all about the 155 division before, and now it's all about the heavyweights. And I like what the UFC is doing here with the scheduling, because then it can really dive into a division, and then you can kind of care about all the fighters at once. Gane is a French Muay Thai professional fighter, kickboxer, who just all over MMA artist, never was a specialist in anything. Looks dangerous at heavyweight. Moves well, kicks well. I mean, Rosenstreich's a big puncher, but we saw what happened to him against Ngannou. So, it's between him, Derek Lewis, and Rosenstreich. It's like, who's the biggest big puncher, and then which one of them gets a shot at Stipe. But Gane throws a wrench in that system because he knows distance, he knows range, and he has very good kicks. Whether it be leg kicks, whether it be that front push kick to keep distance that John Jones is so good at. I don't see these guys winning and catching him with the power punches that they catch some of these wrestlers in. I don't think Gane is as naive as some of these wrestlers are. And I think he could really do something to shake up the division. I definitely could see Derek Lewis fighting the winner of that fight next too. And then that fighter gets a crack at the winner of Stipe, Ngannou, or the first John Jones. Yeah, so heavyweight's almost kind of interesting. Earlier in the broadcast, I was a little upset that we're not at this beautiful full mixed martial arts place at the heavyweight division. But, I liked heavyweight when Brock Lesnar was running the show, and, he was just a freak athlete, doubling people and hammer fisting people. So, let's enjoy this ride. One thing that's brought up quite a bit is people are asking this super heavyweight division, that if the heavyweight weight class is too low, I say show me the guys with the skills that are that big, and then we'll talk about it. So, who are we opening it up for? Obviously the best athletes in the world who are that size aren't training martial arts, and usually haven't been training martial arts most of their life. They're doing other disciplines, football, basketball in America, powerlifting overseas, I guess. I don't know what they do with big people overseas. Are there large people outside of America? I thought all the big people were here. Don't we just grow all the biggest, strongest men, besides one Icelandic dude and one British guy, who I hope end up fighting each other? Yeah, so show me the fighters, and then maybe change the weight classes. I would like to see a cruiserweight, a 225, a 235, maybe 230. That would be interesting to see as well. Some of these mixed bag guys would finally have a home, and I think maybe we could see, some good performances. Because if it's all about athletic performance and getting the best fights for us as viewers, I think that could be the place to go. But yeah. I guess shit. How long have I been going live? Oh, only about 30 minutes. Any questions in the audience about the heavyweight division, state of UFC, any of the fighters coming up, any of the big cards coming up? I guess we can check and see who's on that next UFC fight night as well. Gane Rosenstreich is the main card. The co-main card is a light heavyweight. Oh, Magomed. All right. Pretty dangerous in the light heavyweight division. I think to see him move up the ranks quite a bit, another Dagestani that we get to have fun with and we get to root with, you know, like Team Beard, Team Smash Face, you know, it's fun. Montana De La Rosa versus Mariah Silva. Pedro Munoz versus Jamie Rivera. Angela Hill. Ooh, Angela Hill's back. Okay, girl with the punches. Versus Ashley Yoder. That'll be fun at that women's strawweight. Angela Hill, really dope Muay Thai fighter. Really long, really nasty. A lot of clinch work, a lot of knees to the head. And then a featherweight below that, Alex Carreras versus Kevin Crum. Yeah, this is a pretty fun card. Obviously, all the hype is going to be around that heavyweight division. We're going to talk more about that heavyweight division before that too. But yeah, let me go back to the chat and see if anyone's. Will Nate Diaz ever fight again or just talk? Ooh, so like, do we go into Nate Diaz right now? Do you guys really want to hear my take on Nate Diaz and what's going on with Nate Diaz? Because Nate Diaz is kind of part of these like last remnants of like what my UFC was or what my MMA was coming out of college when it was still like this Wild West parking lot thing. Nate can't compete at 170. He can't compete with the best guys. I think he kind of proved that in the BMF belt against Masvidal. I don't think Masvidal was really even tuned up at that point. He's fun to watch. He's tough as nails. He's nasty. But as far as like competing and like going for a belt and like being one of the top guys in the division, he's just not. I don't know if he can make 55 anymore. Why he's calling out people at 55 is totally beyond me. That weight class is in its perfect position right now, and these guys are having the time of their life because they really all get to line up against each other and be like, who is the baddest man out right now? And we're all going to make a bunch of money off Conor McGregor's name. As long as Conor McGregor stays in that division is super hyped. And as long as Dustin Poirier, you know, is the last guy to knock out Conor McGregor, he's going to carry over that hype. Michael Chandler's coming in with a bunch, you know, it's just a stacked division with a bunch of good fighters and it's all in the air. No, they're not going to like go up and fight Nate Diaz at some catch weight. Maybe so Conor loses to Dustin again in the trilogy. They go fight in their trilogy. Maybe they fight in the trilogy fight before Conor comes back and fights Dustin. I think the world and Dana are still hoping that Conor can get it together. I'm tired of sniffing the farts. You know, I talked myself into betting Conor before, and I still think he's the most overrated fighter in UFC history. I think at 145 he's dangerous. I think he was one of the best 145-pound fighters that there was. I don't think he's the same at 155. Definitely can't compete at 170. Like you put him in there against someone like Usman, and he's just getting smashed. Yeah, but back to Nate Diaz. I don't know what to do, man. Like make 155 or not, or just fight these big one-off fights and not really like worry about like being in the mix for the title. And I think there's a place for that. Like I think there's a place for MMA that's this prize fighting-esque, where it's like you got these personalities, you got these names, you got these interesting fighters that you can still sell pay-per-views on, even though they're not as competitive as other guys in the division, which is just, it's weird because you have to market it as like they are. And there's no other division for them. There's no other organization. It's not like you can do like a Legends League or here's some fights that don't count every once a month, but they do count and they are real fights. And it's just, I don't know how I feel about it. Like Nate's not a top 170. He maybe could put some stuff together at 155, but like, who knows how good he is there. And he's probably going to kill himself trying to make it. Anyone else have anything? I really didn't. Figure four leg lock. Yeah, all right, guys. That's a fun little wrap up on the night. We'll be doing more UFC shows. We'll be doing more watch-alongs. Sorry, things have been a little crazy here with the ice and snowstorms and pipes bursting and me packing equipment and Ross moving cross country. And yeah, it's it's nuts, but we're going to keep bringing you the goods. We're going to keep doing everything fun. Probably be even more shows. Joel and Coop are about to start up their history channel. Their sets are done. Their tests are done. They're about to kick that off, so that'll be pretty fun. I know some of you have already found the soft course of histories. Hope you guys are enjoying that. Yeah, man, it's been fun. I'm going to finish this old Blunsky and then go in the stream. But Papa loves all of you. Thank you for being with him. I'll drop Dan's World playlist tonight. I'm sorry I haven't done that yet. And then I'll DJ some tunes for you for another Patreon episode for some music. But yeah, later, guys.